Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Derailed. See, we got a few people in the chat already. Thank you. Hope you enjoyed the new Legend of Ed Policy song. I think the only correct way for us to start off this live stream is by giving the floor to Jake Schyvinck. Jake, on our last live stream, you were telling me the Bears were secretly really good and that this was going to be a really tough game, and that the Bears were not going to be some pushover team. So talk to us about what you saw in the incredibly hilarious smackdown on the Bears by a horrifically terrible Patriots team.
The models, they're going to find it this week, and it's going to be a close game. I'm dead serious. My tune has not changed. All I remember saying last week is you better not lose to the Patriots. Simply because that was the Patriots win was really the only thing that was going to keep them afloat down the stretch. Right, because of how brutal this finish is for them, they had to be out front. They had to be way ahead of the game. Getting into this back half of the schedule, they had to. Games like New England, Indy, right? Those needed to be wins for them, and they find themselves 4-5. That's not going to get it done, right? In terms of finding a way into the postseason. But again, however, I really do think that we're still in a spot where I do think you're going to see potentially the best punch that defense has given all year to Green Bay. However, I don't think the offense is going to be able to score enough. So I do expect the Bears to be in it this week just simply because of their defense, not because of what the offense is doing. This coaching change, you had to make it. I don't think we're going to see like insane results at all. But I do think at home, Green Bay coming to town, there's kind of that chippiness, that sort of attitude that both have to each other. I do think you're going to get at least the defense's best punch on Sunday.
Jake, last year the Bears went 7-10.
Yes.
They currently have 5 wins, right?
No. They're 4-5, right? Are they 4-5?
They are current. I thought they were 5. Yeah, they are 4-5. I thought they were 5-4.
Well, they should have been probably if they were serious.
Well,
so, but that's another conversation, right?
Here's their remaining schedule. They got 2 home games against the Packers and the Vikings. Then they are on the road for 3 straight weeks. Lions, 49ers, Vikings. At home against the Lions again. At home against Seattle. And then they finish the season at Lambeau Field. How many wins do you see for them in those 8 remaining regular season games?
That's a good question.
Is it more or less than 1.5?
It's probably going to be more. Simply because I don't trust Seattle, and they seem to weirdly have the Vikings number at times. And Minnesota's been a little bit shaky recently. But the 2.5 line would be a tough call because finding a third win is very difficult.
They did. I do think
too
against the Lions last year.
That's true. Yeah, I feel like if anything I think Vikings or Lions, they might maybe it's not. No, it's got to be at home because the defense. They're in the dome. That offense can't keep up with the track meets of the other ones. Yeah, they'll have to win. They'll have to beat the Vikings or Lions at home, which I think they could do. And I think Seattle is a team they can beat. I think if you had to make me put the exact number on it, I do think it's a 2-6 finish.
Yeah, so if they manage to get 3 wins out of that gauntlet of 8 games. Because keep in mind, the Cardinals game and the Patriots game was still part of the easy part of their schedule, and they dropped both of those. So if they manage to find 3 wins out of the next 8 games, Ian says, any way to turn up the volume on your end, guys, at the pool, and it's loud. I'm sorry, you got to get a speaker. We probably could crank Jake up a little bit higher than he is.
I could probably
but
get louder.
I can't get any louder, and if we make Jake louder, then he'll just be louder than me. So,
just hold it up to your ear.
Too old for this.
He's probably already
I'm
doing
restarting The Walking Dead, and it feels like I'm watching the Bears.
That's about right.
Dead.
That's about right.
Shane Waldron, of course, was the sacrificial lamb. I don't think anybody thought that Shane has been doing like a bang-up job, and I don't think a lot of people thought that he was that good in Seattle either. But still, clearly the scapegoat, no doubt about it. Too old for this.
Yeah, I didn't
with the Office quotes.
I do think the fact that Waldron couldn't get JSN going at all last year, super big indictment on him. JSN's comments were 100% correct. Basically repeated this week, by the way, right? People said, like, he's a good dude, right? Like, people said that on the way out. And that's what JSN said, basically. It's just the Bears, the Bears players this time knew they were live. That was the difference, right? So, but Shane Waldron, we got to chat, buddy. Keenan Allen vertical routes all year. What are we doing? What are you doing? You have a Dunze and Moore for those routes, and you're telling me that you want the slowest of the 3 running. I think it's 11% or 12% of his routes are vertical routes. Like it should be 0. It should be 0. He should be running the option routes. He should be running the in and out breakers. Period. Like those are the easy buckets for you to give your quarterback, and you decide that you're going to send him deep. I don't understand it at all. Kudos to him for somehow getting something out of DeAndre Swift. I don't that one's a difficult one for me to understand, to be honest. But that was the same thing last year, right? It was Seattle. When you looked at what they were doing, you were like, oh, they're running the ball well, which is good. And but with Waldron, you probably should have stuck with a little bit more, especially if you're gonna have Allen running a lot of vertical routes and you're not giving DJ Moore some of the yards after the catch buckets. It just seemed like the receiving room, I don't know. It's crazy that I'm saying this because you would think coaches would, but it seemed like maybe Waldron just didn't completely have a grip on the skill sets of the receivers he had, which I guess isn't new because, in Seattle you're not letting JSN run in breakers, run out breakers at all. You're throwing screens to him, which he's a good yak player, JJ. I think we would have both said that coming out of college, but that's 100%. Not the only thing. That's not the only thing he can do, and he just wasn't giving him opportunities. So I do feel like is it a scapegoat thing for sure? Has Eberflus lost the locker room? Absolutely. Is your quarterback playing well? No. But it's just everything feels so disjointed right now, and Waldron was going to be the first step, period, if this was a sunk season. I think a lot of people were at the very best hesitant about the hire. And they're doing it again. And some of the Bears radio guys, someone came on Kevin Clark's This Is Football, JJ. I don't know if you listened to that at all. And was just kind of like they're repeating the cycle over. They're drafting and then they're firing the coach. And it's like, why are you not doing everything at the same time?
Right.
To get this thing in order.
As a Bears hater, I love it.
Right.
As
yes,
someone
of
who
course.
Appreciates football at any level, it drives me crazy.
It is nuts. And question for you, JJ, would you even bring back polls at this point?
No.
Would you just straight clean? You straight cleaning?
No, heck no.
Okay.
Polls is terrible. Polls is horrible. I have been off the Polls bandwagon. I didn't think he was a good hire to begin with. Saw his first year there and said, I have seen enough. This dude stinks. I don't want any more of him.
Yeah. So
Polls, I think Polls is a bigger problem than Eberflus is. Similarly, I
mean,
thought
the
Ryan
defense
Pace
has been
was a
the defense has been fine.
I thought Ryan Pace was a bigger problem than Matt Nagy was, and I think that Ryan Poles has actually been a downgrade from Ryan Pace. Ryan Pace actually hit on some guys in the draft in a way that Poles just has not been able to do. The biggest problem with Pace was he was constantly burning his assets, trading away draft picks.
Right.
Like he would go into every draft class with like 3 or 4 picks.
Yeah.
And things aren't changing. Poles has either 3 or 4 draft picks this year or next year, but he's also doing less with the picks that he has. Drafting a punter in the 3rd round, trading up. I mean, it's really bad. It's really bad with Ryan Poles. He needs to go. And here's the thing. I have said I would have taken Jaden Daniels with the number 1 overall pick. I would not have taken Caleb Williams. I also said drafting Caleb 1st overall was a defensible final outcome, but the process to get there stunk to high heavens. They didn't even interview Jaden. Ryan Poles deserves every second of watching Jaden Daniels kill it for Washington right now. He didn't even interview the guy. I don't care how much you love Caleb Williams. That is just straight up abdicating your job as an NFL scout, as an NFL GM. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't understand the swagger that comes out of his office 365 days a year, just assuming that they're right all the time, going full throttle, never even reconsidering, hey, there are other quarterbacks. Maybe we should consider if any of them are better than the guy that we're already locked in on. It's like when you watch an idiot quarterback who locks in on his receiver before you even snap the ball, never even bothers to look and see, hey, you know what? The guy that I'm locked in on isn't really open, but I'm going to force it to him anyways. I'm not even going to look to see if anybody else got open. That's how Ryan Poles operates.
Yeah, even Carolina had the guys in, right? They made the wrong pick, but they had the guys in. They had Stroud in. They had Richardson in. They settled on the decision. Fine, totally fine.
They
right?
kind of told Stroud they were going to draft him too.
It sounded like it. Yeah, it sounded that way. And who knows if ownership got involved, and there's gonna be a lot of stories and sides to the stories coming out of that. I'm sure in the years to come, but it seems like you would at the very least be interviewing the top player in the draft, and they didn't do that. They didn't interview Malik Neighbors. That seems like that's a problem on them, if you ask me. So
I mean, this is coming from the front office that drafted a punter in the 3rd round.
That's fair.
And hey, look at that. Their punter has more yards than their quarterback.
Yeah.
I think they spent more time scouting punters than they did quarterbacks.
And it's honestly insane that Mooney is making $5 million less than Keenan Allen right now and just absolutely lighting it up in Atlanta. And I think just their evaluation of wide receivers, man. I mean, come on.
Well,
you have to be kidding me.
The Bears always
Claypool.
buy high. They always buy high. I mean, they're always Keenan Allen. The Keenan Allen move. I said at the time because I think we had a derailed either that day or the very next day after it.
It was the next day, yeah.
And I said that I was thrilled with how much they were paying him because
That's so much.
I said, look, you might still get one more good year out of Keenan. But then he's done. Like, he has hit that wall. And I think he has hit it a little bit earlier than we were even expecting.
Which then leads you to, okay, so clearly this is the strange part, right? It's like they must have at least thought that it to some degree because they draft a receiver at 9. So then what's the thought process there? By you're bringing in Keenan, and you're drafting a guy in the top 10. Just don't trade for Keenan then.
You remember 2 years ago?
Because it's crazy. Ryan Poles drafted Velus Jones on day 2. I mean, I love Roma Dunze, but I feel like anybody Poles picks, it's a Belichick situation. They might just not be good. But I do think Dunze has actually played decently well. He has not been, better than Thomas, right, or anything like that, but I think he's played fine. But and again, Belichick hit, every once in a while at wide receiver, but some teams have the blind spots in the scouting room, and you can see it when you go look through the history. And then you got to remind yourself, I think, kind of like, okay, they could hit here, but we've seen the history. And so, it is very, it's just not a great operation. Like I think we kind of like thought of this coming in. It was like the Bears are making, at the very least, right? You could, I think, kind of go, well, okay, I think that some prevailing sentiment was like the Bears O-line is bad. Why aren't they picking? And that's fine. I think that's a fine way to kind of approach it. I think the kind of more nuanced approach was like, okay, they're betting on the leap from some of these guys, right? The rookies, the second years, the third year guys, but they just, there was really not a backup plan. There really wasn't a commitment to offensive line. Amagaji was a project, and I think everybody knew that. Everybody was excited about him, but it was a project. It was a 2-3 year project where he shouldn't be in games as a rookie, and that was your only pick on the O-line. In a draft where it was very clear that O-line was a strength, and you saw it, off the board a bunch in the first 50 picks, you made one pick. And I know, Alt wasn't there. Fine. Latham wasn't there. There were other players there. Okay? You had your opportunity to do it, right? Even if you didn't, like, I know the process of like, oh, no guards in the top 10. Listen, I think Fuanga would be doing a lot better at guard than he would be at tackle in New Orleans right now, but New Orleans drafted and play tackle. Chicago, kind of a luxury selection here. QB, build the O-line. Like, it was kind of right there in front of you, and I get it. It was sexy. Roma Dunze, Caleb Williams. This sounds fun, but you also have to be a little bit sensible here, right? Kind of Green Bay was in a position where everybody thought they were going to do O-line at some point, and they were like, no, we're doing this the first round. He might not even play. He might not start, but you need it. So
right.
It has been a very odd 3 years of drafts for polls, and it's just I can't get Velus Jones out of my head. I really can't. And trading a 2 for Claypool, that was so brutal. Like I tried to because a couple Bears fans messaged me.
It ended up being a 1. Just
technically it was. That's right. Yeah, because it was technically pick 32 because there were only 31 picks.
But it's like 4 months later he was playing in the CFL again.
Right. And I remember Bears fans messaged me at the time like, what do you think of this? I'm like, if I'm being like extremely, extremely nice, like maybe they'll get X out of him and Y. If I'm being extremely blunt, this is horrible. Like this is not a good player. And yeah, it is just some of the very strange moves. And
I don't remember what you said about Velus Jones pre-draft, but I'll tell you what I said on him.
Returner.
Said about him on my
maybe
draft
a running
pod.
back.
My draft pod, I said I'm very, very interested in Velus Jones as a late day 3 flyer to exclusively be a returner. I have zero interest in letting him play offense at all. Don't let him anywhere near offense. He doesn't deserve any offensive snaps. And they took him in what, the 4th round?
No, they took him. Where was it? 71st. No, it was early 3rd. 71st.
Early 3rd. My gosh. Wait, so did they take their punter in the 3rd or the 4th round then?
I think the 4th is where they took Taylor. I think it was in like the 120s.
Torrey Taylor in the 4th and Velus Jones in the 3rd. Okay,
yeah.
That's actually even worse.
It is just to see all the kind of receivers. It was kind of a strange class. After kind of once you got kind of those top guys out of the way, and once Pickens got off the board, right? It was kind of like, okay, there's it's a little shallower. But like,
Yeah,
man, there was like legit.
It did
You could
thin
have
out quick.
legitimately
There were a few
done.
guys like Yosevash that I still really liked, but it did
Yeah.
thin out in that class.
Yeah, it did, and
Michael Wilson.
but Shakir going in at 148 was just patently absurd. That was kind of the consensus was in on that, and you know where the consensus is oftentimes, right? It's very incorrect.
On Shakir.
And it just everybody was on Shakir, and they're like, I have no idea why he's still here at 148. And it was very easy for the Bears just to go, yeah, this guy's like plays good football. We can play, instead of like, hey, this guy's fast.
No,
That's it.
nobody
That should have been the conversation.
Nobody
I know,
does less with more than the Bears do. You look at 2 years ago,
brutal,
they had the most cap space in NFL history. What did they get with it? They got Nate Davis, who, by the way, got released today after playing, 13 snaps total or something? I mean,
Yeah,
he
he
was
started
here for
13
forever,
games,
did
yeah.
absolutely nothing. And then they
he
spent
got
the rest of it.
$1.5 million a start.
They spent the rest of it on 2 off-ball linebackers in the 2020s.
Yeah.
Off-ball linebackers. That's what they spent all their freaking money on. They're broke now.
And they're not, and it's like, if you're going to spend money on an off-ball linebacker, like, he better be a Fred Warner. Like, he better be. Like, we can't. It is, yeah.
Tool for this says the Packers may have had a third-round curse in the past, but the Bears have an every-round curse.
It's a good take. It's a good take from Tool for this. So, all right, should we talk about the Packers a little? Maybe.
I don't know.
That was fun though. That was nice.
If we're going to talk about the Packers, I think we got to start with Xavier McKinney crapping all over DJ Moore. Did you see that?
Did you see the Athletics tweet on it?
It
had like the quote. It had like the quote, but it said Xavier McKinney cornerback, and I'm like, goodness sakes. Yeah. Oh yeah. It's probably not
from
there
the
anymore.
Athletic. That's really disappointing.
Yeah. It was. Yeah. It was Xavier McKinney corner Packers on DJ Moore. It was like.
Yeah, that's sad.
It was
So
like, well,
here's-
obviously it wasn't. You weren't putting corner by DJ Moore, right? So like that. Yeah, that's tough. But I did see that. If you want the floor.
Yeah, so McKinney said, he's talking about DJ Moore. He said, this dude walked out on his quarterback. I've been playing football for 5 years now. I've been watching football for a lot longer than that. I don't think I've ever seen anything like that. He pointed out that McKinney is a captain for the Bears. He said, you're supposed to be the guy, and you're just walking off the field mid-play. You're walking off the field on a rookie quarterback that you've been praising. And then DJ Moore claimed that the reason he walked to the bench was because he rolled his ankle, and McKinney called him a liar.
Yeah, he said cap.
Which, if you watch the clip of DJ walking off the field, his ankle doesn't look like it's bothering him. Just saying. Just saying.
Yeah, that's tough when your QB is like under constant duress, getting drilled, and half the plays he's running for his life. And listen, I get it. Guys get hurt. I'm not going to sit here and call anyone not tough because I would get severed in two if I was out there. But it's tough when you're not doing everything possible to help this guy out right now. So yeah, that was a tough look, and yeah, I don't. It just might be one of those things. Bears draft a QB. Doesn't matter if you liked him or not. He's bad.
Right.
Like, it just might be one of those things where it's like, okay, well, if the Packers draft second round wide receiver, something's going to happen there. Like, if Harbaugh really likes a lineman, yeah, he's probably really good. And so there are certain things that just continue to be true, and like some just organizations are just better at this. They're just better at it, and it seems like Chicago isn't at this point. And Listen,
Well, here's some stats for you.
there was some interesting, really quick on like it feels like DJ Moore was one of those guys who wouldn't probably say it, but he wanted Justin to stay very clearly, and didn't want this. And again, I get it. He had extremely productive games with Fields as the quarterback. At the same time, I think it was kind of time. So you have that problem where it seems like Moore and some of the others, whoever, if that report is real about wanting Caleb benched, you have some guys who weren't on board with this, which means clearly the coach didn't get everybody in line to say, like, this is what we're doing, like GM and everybody. Clearly it was kind of not a divide, but maybe a little bit of a rift and kind of feather ruffling in the wrong way where it just seems like not everybody was on board, and the locker room maybe wasn't quite like they were behind him, right? Like but maybe just a little more begrudgingly, and they really liked Fields and what he brought, like that. If that was the case early on, like Eberflus had lost this thing way before the Hail Mary, way before the Stevenson thing during the Hail Mary. Like it just could have been a lot earlier than we think. So, but you've got some stats. Let's do it.
This is just where the Bears' offense ranks in the NFL in some metrics that may or may not be important to Bears fans. Yards per attempt, 28th. Completion percentage, 31st. Quarterback rating, 24th. Passing touchdowns, they rank 27th. Yards per attempt rushing, 28th. And sack percentage, 32nd. They've been living there for a few years now. 32nd for sack percentage.
Yeah, they've been, and that's the best part. They've been living around there for a few years, and yet it's a 9-sack game on Sunday, and it's just kind of like, same thing as always. Like that's crazy.
Well, the last time I heard of anybody having a 9-sack game was Justin Fields against the Browns in what year was that? 2021? Whatever Justin's rookie year was.
Yeah, that would have been 21.
Yeah, 21.
Yeah, I mean, Caleb
threw him out to the Browns, and he got mauled 9 times.
Yeah, I mean, out of 35 QBs, Caleb Williams 31st in EPA CPOE composite right now. It's not great. It's not great.
Nope. Meanwhile, Jaden Daniels is by
second.
that same metric.
Second.
He's just about the best we've seen.
Second.
Adam Huddle says, "Hear me out. Bears send a 3rd-round pick to the Packers for Tom Clements. Why would we want the Bears' 3rd-round pick in exchange for Tom Clements?
No. Absolutely not. I wouldn't even take a 1.
I would send the Bears a 3rd-round pick for taking Luke Getsy off our hands.
Yeah, they probably need it.
Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's true.
Duel for this. Caleb is now 0-3 against QBs drafted after him. Ayo.
They played the Broncos? Did they?
They played. Let me see here. They played. I think he means. So I don't think this is.
Oh.
What?
Oh.
0-2.
He meant 0-2.
Yeah. He did lose to CJ Stroud, though.
Yes.
He beat. Bryce Young was not playing for the Panthers on October 6th when the Bears played them, right? That was Andy Dalton.
Correct.
And he did beat the Jaguars.
Yep.
So
that's true.
I'm looking at RotoWire here. They are projecting the Bears to finish 4-13.
Wow. So not. I mean, they're well. I don't know if they're doing that
6 against the division.
Right. I assume they're not doing that just solely based on being favored or not. in the FPI down the stretch because I would imagine the FPI would favor them against Seattle at the very least. But maybe not. Maybe not.
Now
4-13 would be a bit of a tough scene. Just a little. But again, guys, remember when Eberflus gets fired,
then
we're gonna have to
good.
We're gonna have to sit around and wonder how the Bears will find a way to ruin the tenure of Ben Johnson in Chicago. Which will be, by the way, could be tough to do. But I mean, you can't hold it past.
My math here: Seahawks at Chicago. Bears are favored by about a half a point. So neutral field.
So they probably.
Tool for this: the Bears have missed out on Mahomes, Deshaun Watson, C.J. Stroud, Jaden Daniels, Nix, and so many more since drafting Trubisky. Yeah, they all. You know who else they passed on was this guy named Aaron Rodgers.
It's true. That is true.
Been a lot of really good quarterbacks that the Bears had an opportunity to draft. They could have drafted Drew Brees. Could have drafted a lot of guys.
Where were they picking in?
Adam Huddle said Cliff Kingsbury to the Bears. I would love that.
Yikes.
That is what we need.
No, maybe they didn't have a chance. No, they had a chance. They could have drafted Jalen Hurts.
2.5 sacks this week. Seems like a game he could pad his stats for the year. Similar to last year, he got a bunch of sacks in a few games. I mean, Caleb was the guy to sack a bunch of times because he likes to hold on to the ball.
Yeah, I would like to see. I would like to see more quick pressure, rather than sacks. I mean, I think the quick pressure will lead to sacks, right? Because I think would I rather see like Caleb run into a sack by Gary or Gary actually force it? And that's what I think. Brandon Thorne does a really nice job of high quality pressures, right? High quality havoc rate, all this kind of stuff that he does. So I think it'd be nice to see Gary with several true wins on Sunday, whether it leads to sacks or not. Hopefully a couple, right? But hopefully it's not like a cleanup sack or a run into the pressure sack type of thing for Gary this week. Hopefully it's just you're seeing him kind of adopt to the 4-3 a little bit more and feel comfortable with the bull rush a little bit more. And I know that a lot of it is coming from in the 3-4, you're out wide, you're in the 2-point stance, and you're able to kind of try to win the corner with your explosiveness because you have a lot of it, right, for somebody who's 270. So hopefully kind of getting back into the mindset of winning in the contact phase, either with the bull rush, with your hands, something like that. That would be really encouraging. And same for LVN. That's what you want to see from both of them. I mean, they're both big and explosive. Like they should be treating, collisions with tackles and finding a way to just treat those collisions with absolute disrespect. Right? Pretend you're Derrick Henry against a defensive back for a moment out there, when you get into
I've been
that bull
asking
rush,
some
right?
Green Bay Packers players to pretend they're Derrick Henry for a while. They don't listen when I ask them to do that.
Are you asking about offense more so?
I might be asking somebody who looks like Derrick Henry and
Right.
plays Derrick Henry's position and plays the way Derrick Henry played when he first got in the league.
Right. That's fair. We should be asking defenders to play like Derrick Henry. So
Hey, if our defenders put up as many touchdowns as Derrick Henry does, I'd be pretty happy.
yeah. Pete's hoping LVN has a good game. Yeah, I think we're all hoping for that as well.
I'm hoping Evan Williams is going to play. I thought that our secondary has looked like crap the whole year except for when Evan Williams is playing a big role. And I think that I think whether he plays or not, we need other dudes in that secondary to step up. I love Jair. I'm not criticizing Jair. But like the entire secondary is pretty much just Xavier with like a sprinkling of Keyshawn at times, and nobody else is
Yeah.
stepping up. And like
Yeah.
again, I'm not really criticizing Jair. Like Jair is who he is. He's he's playing fine. I'm not upset about Jair.
Right.
But there's a lot of other guys out there who are absolute liabilities. The linebackers are liabilities, and you got Xavier and Evan
Yeah.
cleaning up for the linebackers all day long, and also trying to clean up for the cornerbacks, and it ain't working. So I need Evan to get healthy and get out there and play, and I also need other guys to step up. And no hate to Javon Bullard, okay, rookie, sure, whatever, but like there is an opportunity here, my dude, for you to earn yourself a full-time role in the defense.
Do you think the Bullard struggles are because he's having to move around at all? Do you think that's part of it? That he
I mean,
that
it
he
can't-
has
it can't
because
help,
of
right?
because of
Can't
I
help.
imagine it's not like that's not trying to give excuses, but I'm sure that a part of it is kind of like, all right, well, Evan's out this week, Bull, you got to go back to safety, and it's like, all right, Evan's back this week, you got to go to nickel, and it's like I think it would be so much better if he were able to kind of be able to focus on one spot. I think very interesting stuff when you look at next gen and PFF, just because seems to be a little bit of a disconnect. Like PFF's two best grades for him is when he's playing safety and when he's moving around a ton. Like when the snap counts for box, slot, and safety were almost equal. But when you look at next gen stats is telling me that the passer rating allowed when he's playing safety is super high. I think it's like 130. And the passer rating when he's in the slot allowed is like 73, 71, something like that.
I mean, he's much more of a traditional box safety.
For sure.
Having him play a star role in our defense, or even be a true slot corner, I think all three of those suit his skill set a lot more than playing free safety.
Yeah, especially if Green Bay is going to be a lot of single high. I think he has shown at least he showed at Georgia that when you're in two high looks, he has enough range. He has enough of processing speed to make plays. It just might not be there enough when it comes to playing single high. So if Green Bay is going to be a lot of single high, yeah, he's gonna have to be the box player. He is. But yeah, I mean, it would be great if he were to be a really, really good nickel player, because I know Packers fans are absolutely having a cow right now with how Branch is playing and how DeJean is starting to really find it in this Eagles defense as well. Like I know Packer fans are begging for Bull to start to take over a little bit in these games. Assuming he can kind of lock onto the position.
I will still maintain I'm still not that impressed with Brian Branch. I never have been, frankly.
That's a crazy take. I'll just be blunt. It's crazy.
Didn't like him in college.
legitimately a
Still don't like
crazy
him in the
take.
NFL. He's not for me.
It's fine. I'm gonna breathe.
Adam Huddle wants Stokes benched. I will say, I think this past game has broken a little bit of my brain when it comes to Stokes. I've been a long time holdout that Stokes was still worth the investment. Like, and I find myself in this situation frequently where there are Packers who we drafted who I did not at all like the pick at the time. And Stokes was another one that was just like, when we drafted him, I didn't like it. And then, I sit here multiple years defending them once they're in Green Bay. Like, man, like, y'all are wrong about what you think you're seeing from Stokes. This year's version of Stokes, and frankly, the little bit that we saw from him last year, it's a significant step down from where he was pre-injury. He's trending the wrong direction. I don't know if he has a future in the NFL. I really don't think he has a future in Green Bay. I think that if he's going to get his head right, it's going to have to be somewhere else. I don't know. Jake, thoughts on trying to salvage Stokes? I just, at this point, it's been such a long time that he's been trending in the wrong direction. I think that that injury was just absolutely devastating for him, and rushing him back so quickly was asinine. Re-injuring like that, I think that broke something in him. Get that re-injury, because there's a sort of a timidness that he plays with now that he never had as a rookie, as a sophomore in the NFL.
Yeah, that just sucks. If that really is, you get rushed back and you just never felt comfortable, like completely 100% comfortable again. That like truly sucks, and that's what's so difficult. Like to think about like the reality of a lot of this for so many players. It's like sometimes one injury like that can completely, kind of like derail the dream a little bit, right? And just it sucks, and that's the tough part. Like going into the draft every year and just kind of realizing that like so many of these guys aren't going to make second contract is just tough. It really is a tough business that they're in right now. So,
and when you consider how many of them are going to get drafted by the Bears on offense, and their career is just never going to stand any kind of a chance, it's just heartbreaking.
Yeah. I actually think, too, over this, I think the Vikings would be the team to sign him. That's just, they always do that. Can't help themselves. So
the Vikings like to sign washed up players who are just kind of bitter. I don't know that Stokes fits that mold. I think Jacksonville's a little bit more likely to take a swing.
Oh, that could be. Pair him up with Campbell again, like the old Georgia days.
Yeah.
Could be.
Could be fun.
I like that.
Actually, you know where would be a fun place for him to go? Actually, Falcons.
Not bad. Yeah. Yeah, they definitely need it. It'll be interesting to see where he goes next.
Getting back in Georgia, home in Georgia.
Yeah.
Warm weather. He might have some fun down there.
He could. Yeah.
Jaquan Brisker is not playing this week.
No.
So that's interesting. So Jaquan Brisker out, and Montez Sweat did not practice today. Pretty banged up. Could be problematic. Darnell Wright is hurt. Braxton Jones is hurt. And if either of them can't play, guess what? Amagaji's also hurt. See who is even available to play. Of course, they placed Andrew Billings on injured reserve last week. We have old familiar friend Tarvarius Moore, safety. He's hurt. Tevin Jenkins is hurt. They did, of course, as I said, release Nate Davis this week. And last week they had to put Bill Murray on injured reserve. Just had to come up with a reason.
That was good. That was good. Even the fans are going on injured reserve. That is tough.
Too old for this. Did you all see that Evan Williams had supper with Leroy Butler to talk about the Packers-Bears historic rivalry? I did not see that.
2 picks.
Sounds interesting.
2 interception game incoming.
I will just settle for Evan Williams being healthy enough to play. All right?
That works.
I'll just settle for that.
That works. I'm going to stick my neck out there. 2 interceptions. Talk to Leroy Butler. Maybe he's going to do a leap in Soldier Field. Could you imagine? After a pick 6? And the Bears fans,
there is a player.
Imagine the Bears fans being so dejected that they don't even care that happens.
Yeah.
Like, could you imagine that? Like, they're so at rock bottom that like they don't care that Evan Williams does a leap in Soldier Field after a pick six. Like, that's how bad it is. That would be.
That's
Wow.
that's where the
Could
fan
you
base
imagine?
is.
Yeah.
I mean, did
Yeah.
you see
That's what I
any
mean.
of the
Like, it could.
videos? Did you see any of the videos of the Bears fans, like that they took of themselves as they were leaving the Patriots game?
No.
Dude, they are.
Are they the best?
They have been at rock bottom. All right, I know you still have some belief in what the Bears are going to do this Sunday. The Bears fan base does not agree with you. The Bears fan base believes that the Bears are going to be shut out.
That's great.
They are absolute rock bottom.
It's tough.
Bears fan base has given up. Some of them want Caleb benched. They all want Eberflus fired. They all want just about all of them want Ryan Poles fired. They are absolute rock bottom. You know what I could play? I have I grabbed a couple of clips from Pardon My Take.
Okay.
That I just was enjoying the heck out of.
Okay.
Do you want to see this?
Should be fine, I think.
I can't remember. It's been a day or two since I watched them. I can't remember if it's okay. All right, here we go.
They have to be. It's just like beside themselves. Like the fact that Anthony Jennings is picking up Caleb, patting him on the head, like, brother, I'm sorry.
All right.
Get back up there, big guy. You got this.
First of all, I don't know why it's so tiny, but Bears fans booing as the Bears make their way, or as the Bears fans make their way to the exits late in the fourth quarter.
I did see the exits. That is the thumbs down is just so good.
DJ Moore said they were getting booed early in the first quarter. Like there just were some incomplete passes and they were getting booed already, like on their first drive of the game.
Yeah, that's.
It's not playing the. It's not
it is
loading the. Pardon my take clip.
Like
there we go.
Everything's a disaster. The Bears are a joke of an organization. Caleb Williams looks really, really bad. Shane Waldron's a joke. Matt Eberflus needs to get fired. There's been some really bad Bears offenses. They have somehow reached a new low that I said during the game. I was like, if you, instead of waterboarding in Guantanamo, if you just made a terrorist watch the Bears offense on repeat, they would tell every secret they've ever had. We had one drive longer than 21 yards. We had one play longer than 12 yards. The Patriots going into this game had 16 sacks on the season. They sacked Caleb Williams 9 times today. Caleb Williams now second most all-time through 10 weeks. The last 3 games, they have 34 possessions, 27 points. They've been outscored 66-27 since the bye week. They started this game with field position on the Patriots 48, the Bears 40, the Bears 48, and they got 0 points out of it. It is one of the worst teams, if not worst teams in football.
So I will say credit to him a few weeks ago for like legitimately saying like they're the 4th best team in the North. Like it's not close. Like they're not there yet in this division. Like credit to him for saying that pretty early, even before this kind of rock bottom happened. Like it was even evident then that they weren't like this operation was not ready to compete in this division. Granted, I don't think everybody saw, everybody having 4 wins or better, that early in the season. But at the same time, like it was abundantly clear at the beginning of the season, like that the Bears had a pretty easy schedule to start the year. Like it was a great time for them to like figure out everything in terms of offensive rhythm, find out is your defense, the production and, the cohesion, is it going to be kind of similar to last year down the stretch? Like, it's hard it's hard for defensive production and EPA and all that stuff to be sticky year to year, but it was a great time to see if you kind of had all that. And it's just, it's truly unfortunate for them that they've hit rock bottom before this absolute gauntlet. Like it would have been easy, I think, for a lot of us to be like, if the Bears hit rock bottom, where are they going to hit rock bottom? We'll probably after playing 3 division games in a row. Like that would probably be the moment, right? And just the fact that it was against the Patriots in your own building, it's just it's even worse. And you know, going out there to Bears fans right now, I just want to say, also and to Steelers fans, welcome to division play. By the way, just welcome.
No kidding.
Both of you have not played. Not trying to like disparage necessarily what Pittsburgh has done, but like now the real season begins, right? For them, and now the kind of continuous rock bottom begins for Chicago. Like it just felt like, okay, build the momentum up, see if you can compete in these division games down the stretch, and we'll see where you're at the end of the year. And it's like, well, now we know. Now we know you're going to be at. So, if I would transition, there is a team we're probably going to be talking. Speaking of rock bottom, I think there's a team who is reaching that. If we're making the transition into Northern College football now, unless you had some final thoughts.
I do have one final thought. Did you see that Torrey Taylor has almost 400 more yards than Caleb Williams does this year?
That truly isn't shocking, considering
this past week. I believe the stat is that this past week, Torrey Taylor had over 100 yards more than Caleb Williams did just in this one game.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's rough. It's rough out there.
So if we're going to transition to talking about Northern College football, I do think that it would behoove us to take a moment and consider who is doing the most good for the North. Because as I was tallying up some of the games this week, I found myself really appreciating a few teams for their contributions and feeling some frustration with some other teams for their, I guess, damage that they are causing to the brand of Northern College football. So I think we should take a moment and kind of take stock of how would we quantify helping the cause of Northern College football? What are some of the criteria that we would want to include in there?
I mean, obviously, wins against Southern teams, right? And there's a team that has been doing the job. I don't know if we want to skip to them.
Have been doing the job.
Yes, that's true. That's true.
Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeah, Colorado.
Yeah.
Yeoman's work.
Yeah.
I also
good for them.
We're gonna have to shout out Maryland as well when we get
are. That's true. They are undefeated.
There's also some things that I think are damaging to the brand of Northern College football, and so some of those things would certainly include.
Oh no.
Ferentz ball. If you're playing Ferentz ball,
how did they lose? How do you lose?
It's crazy.
How did they lose that? I
so,
thought, like, JJ, I didn't even watch. I went to bed early on Friday, or like was doing something else. Like I didn't even bother to check the score. I thought there's no way UCLA can even bother to keep up in this game. It's not worth my time, right? It's going to be a full slate of Saturday games. Let me do something else. And then I wake up and I'm like, you're kidding. Because somebody said, like, so this it's even better. Somebody was like, UCLA did a phenomenal job containing Caleb Johnson.
Well, yeah,
last night,
so
right?
Caleb Johnson, like Iowa takes the early lead with a Caleb Johnson touchdown, which marked the first time this season that the Hawkeyes scored on their opening possession. Scored a touchdown on their opening possession. I think they had some field goals. And it was all downhill from there. So they did late in the fourth quarter. Man, it was they were down 10-17, and they managed to tie it up. And then in like 3 seconds, UCLA responds with a 27-yard field goal. and they still had 5 minutes left on the clock at that point. And Iowa couldn't do anything.
So
Couldn't do anything.
The craziest part about this is I saw the tweet, right? I see UCLA did a great job containing Caleb Johnson last night. I'm like, okay, so a great job containing him. Cool. So they kept the game close. They didn't win. I still didn't know what the score was. So somebody tweeted that out, and I'm like, okay, so they kept him in check, but they didn't do enough elsewhere. So that led me to go look up what Caleb Johnson's stat line was, and lo and behold, I see UCLA 20, Iowa 17, and I truly cannot believe what I'm looking at. I did not, even as a staunch hater of Iowa, big time hater, just like Indiana, big time hater. I did not foresee 6-4 with 2 games to play. Like I did not have that on the bingo card.
So one of my dear friends is a just absolutely humongous Iowa fan. In fact, as you all know, I'm an Ohio State fan, and the week of the Ohio State-Iowa game, I walked down the road to my friend's house, and I stole his Iowa flag off his flagpole, and I ran a Buckeye flag up to the top of the flagpole. So we were talking before the season, and I told him, I said, listen, playoffs, I'm really not that concerned about it. I put some money on it. Like, I was going to be in the playoffs for sure. I said, I think they're going to either be a one-loss team. Maybe they could squeak out a win against Ohio State. I said, the other game on your schedule that would be a defensible loss would be Iowa State. I think Iowa State is going to have a good season. Yeah. It's an in-state rival. It's always a weird game. The Michigan State loss,
that was shocking.
And I think it broke Iowa.
It might have, because Northwestern, we know what's going on there. We know what they are, but yeah, I mean, again, I remember saying it. I remember my sister telling me, like, it's 12-0 at half, and I thought for sure, okay, so Iowa's just kicking field goals, but they're leading and shutting out Michigan State, and it was the opposite, and I truly could not believe that. But I'm even more befuddled losing to UCLA. Like, people were calling these guys Fresno State a month ago, and they're beating teams now. Suddenly,
yeah,
it's very weird. I don't get it.
It's absolutely brutal, and I'm very disappointed in Iowa. I'm very disappointed in Kirk Ferentz. The only offense that they have is Caleb Johnson and Luke Lachey. I want Luke Lachey to be a Packer so freaking bad.
That'd be nice.
Please.
Be nice. Yeah.
So we're definitely demoting Iowa. You can't be a 4-loss team.
This is
winless
crazy.
against the South and stay in Tier 2. I'm sorry.
No.
You are getting punted at least down to Tier 3. And you know what? If we're talking about what have you done for the North, Washington is 1-0 against the North, against the South right now. All right?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You're dropping below Washington. Sorry, man. It's got to happen. Purdue, all right, listen. You got shut out against Ohio State. So I think I need to I just need to add like another divider line just to bump Purdue even further down into
like they're not
the
in
next
Purdue tier.
lower circle of the
Can we
Purdue
call the
tier.
bottom tier Florida State?
Fine. You know what?
Because we're gonna get there, but they're 1-9. Like, Florida State was undefeated in the regular season last year. They're 1-9. So you talk about rock bottom. That was like watching Notre Dame play an FCS team. Like, it was that bad.
I'll tell you where it went wrong for Purdue this year. All right, they did not look the same after their bye week. They were doing really good, and then they had that bye in week 2, and it's just been downhill since there. Look at that. Winless since their bye. Just brutal.
It's tough. That is tough.
I've been saving that all day.
That was good. They should have never gone on break. I don't know what happened. Oh, I see something now on there. They started playing Big Ten games. They started playing in a conference they shouldn't be in right now.
Whatever
Goodness sakes.
bye week, whatever bye week.
I think they might have lost to the bye week, and
adjustments
that
they
might have
made.
broke them.
Yeah,
They might have lost to the bye
adjustments
week.
They made, they were bad.
Yeah, I think the bye week beat them. Probably like 23-10 or something. So Ohio State, take care of business. Nice, cool. We're laser focused on Indiana. Like finally, like Big Noon. I'm stop putting Ohio State, Purdue, or Penn State against Rutgers. Don't put these games on.
Hey, do
at
not
11.
besmirch the good name of Rutgers. You can
Penn State
slander
against
Maryland.
UCLA, right? Or
All right,
Penn
thank
State against Maryland. Don't put these games like Northwestern against Penn State. Like, don't be doing like stuff like that at 11 a.m. on Fox on Saturday. Please put a game that's got at least some juice. That is ridiculous. They need to stop. I know they want to put Ohio State on TV. I get it. But we can't do this. That is gross. It's just like anybody that's like not like intently watching Ohio State, they're not keeping the game on. Like, they're playing Purdue. What's Purdue's record? Oh my gosh. That's it. I'm going to watch this for 10 minutes. Please. I know they've got Colorado, Utah this week.
No,
Thank you. Thank you for putting something else on. Because we didn't need, I don't know what the tune-up games before, some of these rivalry games down the stretch here, but like, thank goodness we're not getting another one of these at 11 on Saturday on Fox. We can't be doing that. Not cool.
My wife is sitting there with me, and we're watching Ohio State Purdue because we want to see what Ohio State's going to do, and we and we know they're playing some of the young guys today, and it's kind of exciting. And she's looking at the TV graphic, and she's like, "Oh, look, our records are mirrored from each other." Because Purdue's 1-7 and Ohio State's 7-1, and then she's reflecting on it. And she's like, I don't know why they're having these two teams play each other. I'm like, I don't know. We're all wondering.
Is that your wife might be onto something in terms of relegation? That's all.
I
I'm
know,
saying.
right?
She might be onto something there.
Purdue might just get relegated to the South to make room for Boise State.
that would be tough. That's worse than getting relegated to Division II Northern team.
We did relegate them to the Florida State tier. Which is certainly the South,
which is tough.
So we do need to talk about Boston College, though.
Oh my goodness!
So this Syracuse Boston College game. There's more to talk about with Boston College. Let's start with Syracuse, though. Okay, so you may notice that Pitt lost to Virginia, right?
Yeah.
Let's look back here. We have this Syracuse Pitt game, which was bonkers
that was something.
crazy.
That was
right?
something. Yeah.
Let's go look at what Pitt has done since
playing Syracuse.
Play the psychotic Syracuse.
There you go.
So check this out. Two
That's
losses
tough.
in a row to the South. All right. I think that playing Syracuse messes with your head.
So Boston College is doomed. What's their schedule? The last few weeks. Now I must know.
Well, we'll have to talk about. Boston College,
Well, funny you should say that. Wait, so who did that? Can you go Pitt? Right. Pitt played Syracuse, and then got blown up by SMU. That's interesting because Boston College is at SMU this week, so I fear another blowout's coming. Then they have North Carolina. You guys better not. But that's two Southern teams in a row.
Well, you may notice Boston
Seems like
College
they might be on that
1-4.
track.
1-4 against the South this year.
They might be 1-6 by season's end.
They made a big change though. So they benched Thomas Castellanos, their quarterback.
Yeah.
Holmes says my audio sucks. Jake, is my audio bad right now?
I don't know who he's referring to.
Your audio sounds fine to me.
The audio might not be great when I get loud. That's possible.
Am I choppy? Am I cutting in and out?
Not for me. Not for me. Not for
Chat,
me.
if you have some feedback on the audio situation, please let us know. If you got some other insights, it would help us narrow in on what to fix. Thank you.
Yeah.
So Boston College benched their quarterback Thomas Castellanos, who I've been a big fan of. I think he's played pretty darn well. I do think that there is a bit of a sort of philosophical mismatch here between the Thomas Castellanos style of play and the Bill O'Brien offense that he'd like to be running. It just is disappointing to me that they haven't been able to work. And Thomas Castellanos, I think, is probably going to transfer out of here now. Bill O'Brien said that Thomas was going to take a few days away from the team because he was frustrated at losing his job, which to me is code for expect him in the transfer portal sooner rather than later.
Yeah.
Which is just is disappointing, but I'm going to keep my eye on him. I want to see where he ends up because I think that he can be, first of all, I would like him to stay in the North. I'd like him to go to another Northern team. I could really see sort of like a Curtis Rourke type situation for him next year. You just get him in the right scheme. I mean, Iowa is not the right fit for him either, but
I wouldn't go there.
I mean, maybe Maryland. I don't know. I'm trying to think who needs a quarterback badly who likes to sling it around. Ooh. I know where he should go. I don't want him to go to Michigan, but he should go to Michigan.
I think from everything that people are talking about, everything I'm gathering from Twitter and such, it sounds like Miller Moss is going to go to Michigan.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that is what
Your
it
thoughts
sounds
on that?
like.
Your thoughts on that? Because I think that Miller Moss is kind of better than the memes. We've seen him play good football at times, but I also kind of think like Lincoln Riley is the guy that you want if you're a quarterback.
For sure.
And I just don't know what is waiting for him in Ann Arbor. I mean, Michigan's going to be worse next year than they are this year because they're losing Will Johnson. They're losing Kenneth Graham and what's the other guy's name?
The other Kenneth Grant and then Mason Graham. Yeah,
Mason Graham. Kenneth Graham. Mason Graham. Yeah.
Yeah, and probably Josiah Stewart potentially.
Probably Josiah Stewart, and then their tight end.
Yeah,
Luke
Loveland's gone.
Colston Loveland. So they're going to be worse next year, and they've not been recruiting well.
I mean, if I'm Miller Moss, I'm going to Oregon if I have the chance to play there.
I'd like to see Oregon get off the transfer
for sure
train.
It would be nice to, but if they're gonna do it again, could be all right. JJ, Boston College threw the ball 13 times in this game, and they won 37-31. So I think it just confirms that Syracuse just plays weird football games. They are the Jekyll and Hyde, as we've often discussed on this show. So I can't wait to see if the playing Syracuse thing happens to Boston College down the stretch. But
it might. I do think that Bill O'Brien has a pretty clear picture of what he wants to do with his offense, and Grayson James, the quarterback he replaced Thomas Castellanos with at halftime, who didn't really throw the ball in the second half. I think he threw it 2 or 3 times, maybe
5 of 6 in the game. I don't know if that was all second half or not, but
I think that Thomas got benched in the second quarter.
Okay.
In the second quarter. So You said they threw it 13 times, and then Grayson threw it 6 times. So
Yeah.
you had 7 passes before the second quarter.
Castellanos. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's yeah. Crazy.
So, anyways, I do think that Bill O'Brien has a clear picture of what he'd like to do. I do think that that the way he likes his O-line to block up O-line and receivers to block up the run game can be really effective. I a little bit question it against SMU, but we'll see. I think I would still pick. Who am I kidding? I'm picking SMU to win this game, but I would like to see a resurgence of Boston College. BC has just disappointed me so freaking much this year. I had such high expectations of them, and their only wins are Florida State. How do you say that? Duquesne,
yeah.
Michigan State, back when they were awful, Western Kentucky, and Syracuse. So, like, this
Not
right
telling me a whole lot here.
when we're talking about, like, hurting the Northern brand, this is hurting the Northern brand. You lose to Mizzou. You lose to Virginia Tech, and Louisville.
Yeah.
You
And they
hurt
got
the record of Syracuse.
And they've got 2 more games against Southern teams to potentially
so-
go 1-6 against the South this year, which is not a good look.
Very
but they did
disappointed
win.
and frustrated in BC so far this season, but they can
Yeah.
turn things around.
But they did win.
Chat, let us
Does
know
this
if
do
you
anything?
want us to talk about Minnesota Rutgers, because I don't think we want to, but we will if you want us to. That was
I don't
that was
feel
one of
good.
those games that we didn't want to talk about.
I didn't feel good. I feel a little more concerned now. Illinois at Rutgers, a week from Saturday. We'll see how that goes. Yeah, there's not much there. But BC, are we moving them at all?
I want to move them down. I'm
Wow.
not going to move them below Wisconsin,
Okay.
but Kansas smashed Iowa State.
Yeah.
That to me bumps them over Boston College. Now, I
Okay.
don't appreciate that Kansas is hurting Iowa State's record like this, because we were kind of high on Iowa State to, make the playoffs. That ain't happening anymore at this point. I don't think. I think right now, for
the
me,
path is there.
the Big 12 is a BYU Colorado race.
Is Colorado in
Colorado
solo
is playing-
second?
Colorado's playing incredible right now. Their only losses are to 2 northern teams, Nebraska and Kansas State. They're 4-0 against the South. They smashed Texas Tech.
Okay, so they do have to. Yeah, I guess. Wow, Arizona State is T3 and the big 12 standings right now.
Arizona State. Yeah.
That's crazy.
I mean, Arizona State, I think, is pretty much perennially a better football program than Arizona. Last year notwithstanding.
Right. Anyway. Yeah, it does,
How about,
it does- I don't know if
how about
Colorado's going to
your-
slip up. So,
How about your least favorite team versus my least favorite team?
are we skipping the other game?
We can talk West Virginia, Cincinnati.
Do we just have to move anything? Are we moving anything?
Well, here's the thing. Cincy
that
is
game?
ahead of West Virginia.
Yeah.
Cincy has a 3-1 record against the South. West Virginia is a 2-0 record against the South.
Oh,
You look at West Virginia, they kind of been hot and cold this year. I think that they really their only impressive win at all has been this most recent game against
Right.
Cincy, 31-24.
Yeah.
I mean, the Kansas win, 32-28. Colorado or Oklahoma State,
yeah.
Arizona's not
Like
good.
legitimately, like West Virginia before the season, if you said West Virginia is going to beat Arizona, Oklahoma State, who else was it? Kansas, you've been like, whoa, hold on a minute.
Right.
But based on what we know
Expectations
about the
meet
teams
reality.
now, yeah, expectations were those were the teams plus Kansas State. Those were the teams plus Kansas State to watch in the conference. That's where everybody was leaning. And it turns out, no, not going to be the case. So, yeah, on paper before the season, that looks really good. Less so now.
And
I will say,
like their Houston win 34-0. Arizona
they did
State
beat Arizona
24-14.
State, which that's good.
Really close loss to Texas Tech. Really close loss to a fantastic Colorado team that was rolling. That was a game that we were super excited about. Was that Colorado Cincy game? It lived up to expectations.
It did.
So, if this was just a resume ranking, sure, I think that we put West Virginia over Cincy, but like Cincy is hotter right now.
Yeah,
they're playing better. They have the better resume.
I would like to move Rutgers ahead of Michigan State.
Well, Michigan State is absolutely trending the wrong way. Dropped 2 in a row to Michigan and Indiana. That's after a 3-game losing streak. Boston College, Ohio State, Oregon.
Yeah. To be clear, I'm not dropping Michigan State on the bye. I'm moving Rutgers up because I feel like they're trending. They're kind of righting the ship a little. Michigan State's not getting bumped down. Like we're not physically like dropping them. We're just elevating Rutgers because I think they're trending in the right direction.
Let's look at Rutgers here. They did drop 4 in a row.
They did.
To Nebraska, Wisconsin, UCLA, and USC. And you might think, hey, that automatically puts them below Michigan. Let's look at what Michigan's done recently. They lost 4 of their last 5.
It's not great.
They lost 4 of their last 5. And the one win they had was Michigan State. We just dropped below Rutgers.
Yeah.
And by the way, that was a game that Michigan shouldn't probably really have won either. Michigan State just
and the Minnesota
kind of quit trying in the second half.
And the USC game.
And the Minnesota game. And the Minnesota game that they really did win. So
right.
So
yeah, I mean I wouldn't be.
I don't think we have any case that Rutgers should be ahead of Michigan, but there is no gap. I mean, this is just these two teams.
This is two teams right there. Yeah. Okay, So
Cincy, though, why would we have Cincy below that gauntlet of teams that we just looked at, right? That swamp of teams.
Are you talking?
So, like, what?
You're talking
why
the
shouldn't
West Virginias?
Cincy go up above Michigan, Rutgers, and Michigan State? I mean, we can't really demote Michigan State below Cincy on their bye week in a week when Cincy lost.
Yeah, Cincy losing
but Michigan
makes me struggle to move them up a lot. The problem is that there are 2 teams way above them in the tier that also both lost this week.
Yeah.
The top 2 teams in tier 4 lost. Pitt to a Southern team in brutal fashion. So this is a weird tier right now. Tier 4 is offensive.
It's a
rocker.
slog. It's a slog. I do want to shout out. So we've talked about Kansas in the last 3 weeks after their just brutal 5-game losing streak. They had their bye. They annihilated Houston. Lost narrowly to Kansas State, in-state rival. What's that game called? The Sunflower Bowl, I think. And then smashed Iowa State. So I know that their record is trash. Why are you thumbs down in?
Never liked them. Bad school. Never liked them. Can't stand their basketball team. Never liked them.
Fine.
So glad we beat you guys early in the season. Like, I hope that hurt. I hope that hurt so much. Just to let you know.
Hater.
Just to let you know, Kansas. I hope that really hurt in prime time.
Now we know why you've been rooting so hard for Kansas State all year.
Hope you feel that. Anyway.
So
and I hope you guys lose in the first round of the tournament in March.
We're trying to talk about Michigan, Indiana.
Yeah.
So obviously a truly embarrassing performance from Michigan. I think that this game showed me a little more about Indiana. Makes me really interested about the upcoming Indiana-Ohio State game. Now, beating Michigan did bump Indiana up where they belong in the playoff rankings, which is, I think, 5th. So I think four of the top 5 teams in the country are Big Ten teams. You got Ohio State, Oregon 1, Ohio State 2, and then somebody else is at 3.
Texas.
We got Penn State, and Indiana rounding out the top 5. Yeah, Texas.
Yeah.
In that third slot. So the North is representing. I think,
Yes, they are.
we talked a lot preseason about how the 4 best teams in the country this year were going to be Oregon, Ohio State, Georgia, and Texas in some order. And I said of those 4, I felt the mushiest about Georgia. I think there's now a significant gap between Georgia and the other 3 of those top games. Now, not to say that there have not been questionable moments. All right, like Ohio State very easily could have lost to Nebraska 2 weeks ago, and 3 weeks ago, and they were in a bad spot after that Oregon loss. Oregon very nearly lost to Boise State to start out the year, and they could not
Shout out Aston
protect
Genty.
anything with that offensive line. They gave like 13 sacks in the first 2 games or something stupid like that before they finally got it rolling.
Yeah.
And then of course, Texas had their mushy moments, and they lost to Georgia.
Right.
But I do think there is a significant gap between Georgia and the other teams, and I just at this point, I'm not anticipating Georgia making the playoffs.
Probably not, but they're going to spoil somebody else's.
Well, they have an interesting matchup this week against Tennessee. Who I think Tennessee is terrible. Everybody can't stop gushing over Tennessee.
Georgia's spoiling the party this weekend. They're going to end that run this weekend.
I think I'm rooting for Georgia to expose Tennessee. Expose them again. They've already been exposed this year, but people forgot.
They have. Yeah, they lost to Arkansas.
They did, yeah.
They lost to Arkansas. We just seem to ignore that.
If you want to
rather have them in the playoff.
If you want to gush over Ole Miss, if you want to gush over Vanderbilt, sure, whatever, But Tennessee,
we're not doing the Tennessee thing. We're not doing that.
No,
we're not doing that.
This Tennessee hype is the SEC media fawning that we despise here. It's the, oh man, look at our quality losses. This just speaks to the depth of our league. No, get out of here. So. But this does leave me with some questions about Indiana. I still think Indiana is crazy good. Like on paper, Indiana is the best team in the country. Well, no, second best. Notre Dame on paper is the best team in the country, believe it or not. But they have probably the worst loss in all of college football this year. So, they'll probably get in the playoffs, and
That's
they
a
should.
tough one. Yeah,
and they are wicked tough for sure.
Are we doing this with Notre Dame though? Like they should be in the playoff, but are we doing the thing where we're like, oh, they might contend? It just feels like they are Penn State as well. They are also Penn State. They just don't do that thing in the regular season. They do it in the playoff. Penn State
says, we are, and Notre Dame says us too.
Yeah, Penn State is we are bowing out now. Notre Dame is we are bowing out later. Like they're not on the same level.
Do you think Notre Dame is going to win a playoff game?
Do they get to play Tennessee?
No, because Tennessee is not making the playoffs.
Oh, okay. Then I'm less sure.
Hey,
because I think hi Travis.
Here, hold on a second. We got a chat here on X from Travis. I had no idea
ever
still did this. Just hopped on X on break. Is there a reason the derailed episodes aren't coming to podcast anymore? So, real quick here, I'm going to put the QR up on the screen. You can scan this and go subscribe to the derailed feed. So we are on all podcast apps out there. If you watch on YouTube or on Spotify, you can see the video version. So we do post a
Yes.
video version to Spotify. We got audio everywhere. And then on YouTube, you can catch us live during the regular season for the NFL. We are doing this on Wednesday nights because we don't want to compete with Monday Night Football or Thursday Night Football. So Wednesday's the night we settled on. We usually go live around 7 p.m. Lambeau time. So yeah, definitely scan that QR code, or you can search in just about every podcast app out there. Just Derailed, you'll find us. So we are no longer on the Packernet Podcast Network. We have moved off of that. So if you want to get our episodes in your podcast app, you do need to subscribe to our feed.
Yes. If you're watching on Spotify, like if you're actually like watching it on Spotify, that might be, you know, top 1% of the fans. Like that's sicko stuff. Watching on Spotify. I know that's a thing. I know people do it. To me, it's just I'd rather watch on YouTube but you know, that's awesome if you're watching on Spotify. Or if you're obviously, or if you're here
on YouTube,
right now.
There's two benefits on YouTube. One is you can participate live and send chats that will get on screen. You can do that on X too.
Yes.
It's just easier on YouTube. Also, you can send super chats on YouTube, which
It's true.
Hey,
you
if you want to support the show, if you want us to keep doing this, send us a little bit of Menendez. It's pretty nice. We appreciate that.
Yeah. But yeah.
He says, I'm a Spotify guy. My Wrapped is disgusting to look at every year. Dude, my Wrapped.
No, you got to own it. Who cares what it is? Just own it. You know?
My Wrapped has gone downhill since I had a kid because there's all the toddler music now that gets played on my Spotify. So like the results are just they're in the toilet. It's terrible now. I do always get excited
Spotify. It seems your preferences have changed.
Yeah. Well, I
it's
also finally in the past.
It's really not my preferences, but
in the past year, I finally switched away from using Spotify as my podcast player of choice, and I switched to Podcast Addict because I just needed to have some more customization over how my subscriptions worked. But I used Spotify for a bunch of years, and it is definitely the most convenient because you can cast it to every device in my entire house. Travis says, us night shift folks live for the pods. Over 90,000 minutes on Packernet podcast alone last year. Yeah, I don't know what mine has been at. I know that's often kind of where my numbers are at, and that's crazy. I'm actually I do those numbers on multiple different podcasts. Actually, there's a couple. There's a couple college football shows that I put in that.
Oh yes,
as well.
That's
and then I hate to say it, but now this year I kind of got sucked back into keeping up with some of the election stuff too, which I keep swearing it off, and then every 4 years I get dragged back in. So
somehow they pull me back in. It must be the ads.
It must be.
All right.
So so Travis,
where are we at?
So we're having a blast though doing Packers, NFL draft, and Northern college football. So we're kind of wrapping up our show for tonight. And we're touching on our Northern college football rankings here, where we're kind of reshuffling some teams. Jake, we were talking about
Notre Dame versus
Notre Dame here,
a playoff game.
I do think Notre Dame has to go above Iowa State. Colorado has to go above Iowa State. Look at that 4-0 record against against the South.
I like that.
Iowa State. Good. Do we drop them down to tier 3? I think there is maybe a separation between Colorado and Iowa State, but there's also maybe a separation between Iowa State and Washington.
Yeah, when you look at Iowa State and then you
Travis
look
says,
at the
sorry
teams
to derail. That's the whole point of it. You're supposed to derail.
No. That's what you're supposed to do. That's
derail.
the object.
Travis,
Every
time you stop Jake from making his point about college football, you as the fans have won.
It's true.
That's the whole point.
It's true.
All right, Notre Dame winning a
but
playoff.
When I look at Iowa State and then I look at tier 3, it's very it's clear. It's a clear distinction. I do think Yeah, I think that there is a decent amount. I don't know. BYU might be above these cats as well, but I do think you're still seeing in this tier pretty good resume, and this tier, by the way, is 12-1 against Southern teams. Like this is the frisky fun tier, like that's got some juice to it, right? Like they're beating the Southern teams, they're in the hunt. Like this is a very solid group of football teams here, the second tier, and I like it. I know 2 of them are probably going to the playoff. To me, I think Iowa State can right the ship. I think 10-2 is within their grasp.
The
But I
problem
think
for
the
Iowa
10-2 is not going to get them in the
problem for-
playoff.
Well, that's the problem is that
I don't think they're going to get into the
they're-
Big 12 title game now.
they don't really
'Cause-
have the quality wins to lean on either. Like UCF is not a exciting,
No.
sexy win.
No,
West
they
Virginia,
really
not exciting. The only
The one
interesting
was
win they
Iowa.
have is that 1-point win over in-state rival Iowa, and Iowa has gone off the rails these last couple
they
weeks.
do.
So
They have.
So
They got a big one coming up.
I don't see Iowa State making it into the playoffs, but I appreciate what they've done against the South. But
Yeah, I will say
Jake, I
they
have
got
to say, though,
a big game against Kansas State at the end of the year. That I think is going to be really, really exciting to watch. But if we're moving off that,
there's something that makes me want to drop Iowa State down a little bit.
okay,
So let's look.
you
at
can
here.
drop them
Oregon
down.
1-0 against the South. Indiana 1-0 against the South. Penn State 2-0 against the South. BYU 3-0 against
That's
the South.
fine.
Notre Dame 3-0. Colorado 4-0. Washington 1-0. You got to go all the way down to Iowa to find the next team that lost. To
Listen,
the South.
we're
We
not-
have a
we're not
lot
gonna-
of wins against the
I'm
South.
I'm not gonna put Iowa State in the same tier as Washington. No matter what, that is just there.
All right,
That is,
fine.
we can't do that. If you want Iowa State to be in their own tier, that's totally fine. I'm not putting them in the same tier with Nebraska, who disappoints me, Illinois, who looks like the fraud that they were meant to be at the beginning of the year, Kansas State not fulfilling the promise of being one of the teams in it in the Big 12. So that's more of an expectation thing. Iowa's an expectation thing. Washington's about where I expected them to be, believe it or not. I expected them and Michigan to kind of be flirting around 500 this year because the schedules were tough and they lost so much.
Yeah.
So
I think there's a
I
couple
can't-
losses on here. Losing the Apple Cup, losing to Rutgers. Those are some kind of. I mean, yeah, they had to
Apple
go across
Cup's a
the country,
tough
but
one. That's a tough one. That's at home. They lost the Apple Cup
Yeah.
at home? That's
Yeah, and
that
and
I did not
Washington
expect.
State, Washington State lost their head coach. I mean,
Yeah.
they are not in a good spot.
That was surprising. That one was surprising for sure.
And then you got a bad loss to Penn State.
Yeah.
So like Penn State,
Yeah.
and this is
It's-
at home. All right, Penn
is.
State, 3 weeks ago, went to USC and played it down to the wire. Then
Yeah.
they go home and they get beat up, like bloodied and beaten to a pulp by Ohio State. And then they come to Washington and beat you 35-6. That is a bad, bad loss for Washington.
Yeah. Wait, I thought wasn't that in-state college? Yeah.
I didn't think it was. Oh,
Yeah,
did
it's
I
here
log
on the
that
right,
incorrectly?
Yeah, it's
Did
here
I
on the
log
right
that
here.
incorrectly?
Yeah, that one's at Penn State.
At
Because
Penn
I think because we were talking about it and we were like, oh, it could be interesting if it's at Washington. So I know we talked about that because we weren't sure last week where it was. But then we found out it was at Happy Valley, and we were like, I don't think you're gonna see the best from them. They got bludgeoned. So yeah, I think so. Yeah, if you want to make Iowa State tier 3 by themselves, I'm good with that. Pitt, yikes, trending in the wrong direction.
Yeah, we kind of covered on them to start the
Yeah, we
segment,
did,
but
and we're not
dropping
doing,
2 in a row to meh Southern teams. Like
Right.
at this point, like maybe SMU makes the playoffs, but these are bad losses, very bad losses. And
I know they have Boston College end of year. I don't know. Clemson and Louisville. Ooh. Could be a tough finish for
Could be.
for the
Clemson is
Cinderella.
kinda sneaky decent.
Yeah.
Did you watch the Holy War, BYU Utah?
You
This
know
was
it.
Kind of a,
You know it.
Kind of a crazy game.
I want to say it. I said they were going to give them their best. I said Utah was going to give them their best. I thought they had it. I thought, oh my gosh, they're going down. By the way, Utah fans, that was a hold. I don't know why we're getting up in arms.
Well, Utah's athletic director
I
got
know.
fined $40,000.
Yeah, for complaining about a call that was right. Like, listen.
Yeah. His quote was, "We won this game, and someone else, aka the refs, stole it from us."
No,
And the Big 12 fined him $40,000.
you had it. You blew it. It's tough. You did give BYU for the most part the best shot that they've gotten all year. Maybe other
Well,
than
I think the best shot was the water bottle from the stands that hit BYU's cheerleading coach and injured her. That was a dot. You shouldn't have thrown it, but it was a dot.
Holy Wars do go a little too far.
Yeah, that kid got arrested.
Yeah. So you knew that this was BYU did this, I think, against Oklahoma State as well, where they were kind of down to the wire and needed the last second touchdown to win. Whoa.
5 losses in a row.
It's 5 in a row. And they got Colorado this week. So
yeah, they're going to get
yikes.
shellacked. Now,
yeah.
it coincides with losing their quarterback, but still, this is such a disappointing season for Utah.
This is what I mean. Like, I know, it doesn't happen every time. Some teams, like, no matter what, they're trending down. They're going to face a team they know they can get up for. This was it. Utah had the chance to be the spoiler, and just didn't get it done. What a finish! BYU continues to survive. BYU continues to be a champion of the North in 2 facets. They look poised for the playoff berth. That would be really exciting for them. Truly. So good on them to find a way to get it done. Utah, you blew it. You had a chance to pretty much kind of pull everybody back in a little bit. Like, they could have done it in back-to-back weeks. Like, they could have pulled everyone back in by beating BYU and could have maybe, I think it's going to be deflating for them now, pulled everybody back in by beating Colorado at home. Like, they had a real chance to just kind of like, we're going to spoil this. We're going to turn this conference on its head. And unfortunately, I think the deflating loss here is pretty much like you said. It's going to be it could be 30, 35 point loss to Colorado. Just they had their shot.
At this point, if they beat Colorado, at this point, if they beat Colorado, I think the whole country is going to be booing them at that point. Like, you haven't shown up all year.
It's like you had a chance to pull the real upset off, and then
now that we're actually excited about Colorado because they're playing decent football.
Yeah,
that's like
now they're
actually
going to
solid
do
in
that.
every phase. Now, if you show up and spoil Colorado's season, I'm just going to boo you.
Yeah. But yeah.
Speaking of getting booed, we're about to end the live stream. So sorry to everybody who needs to find something else to entertain
are
yourselves
we
in.
comfortable with what the tiers look like? Because we didn't obviously do a lot of movement this week. There was a pretty minimal
Mostly
movement.
because there were not a lot of games that were played.
It's true.
I think the one thing
is
for
anybody
me
moved down to Purdue tier? Because we have the
we're
tier
approaching
5
that territory with Utah, with West Virginia. Well, West Virginia
just won. Maryland. They're starting.
Yeah,
to get
actually,
there,
so
too.
here's something. Let me see if I still have it pulled up.
Maryland's starting to get there.
Here it is. So I have here. You may notice. So if you just in PFF, if you just sort by overall grade, so they have Indiana as the best team in the North, just on a top to bottom, every player who's played, offense, defense, whatever.
Whoa.
And then they have Maryland as the worst team in the North, which kind of makes you sad.
Whoa, there are two teams. Wait a minute. There are teams below Purdue?
Yeah.
Oh, there
Yeah,
are.
they
Whoa.
have graded Michigan
Whoa.
State and Maryland as having played worse football than Purdue.
I did not expect to see Kansas State that low. That's crazy. Pitt being that low at 7-4 is quite funny.
But like
Dang.
that's kind of what their season has felt like. Like every time you look at the
Yeah.
fact they're 7-4, you're like, you're 7-4? Seriously?
Yeah, that's true.
So the worst offense in the league goes to Northwestern, but their defense has been played out of its mind.
There's just
Their defense
you
has only
can't.
coughed up 197 points on the season.
I refuse to believe that Iowa's ninth. That's just we can't. No.
I mean,
No.
that's all Luke Lachey and Caleb Johnson.
That's okay. Yeah. Okay. I'll take it.
Defensively, so offensively, the top two teams are Indiana and Ohio State. Defensively, it's the same. Defensively, the worst defense by a wide margin is Purdue.
Well,
You've given up 340 points this year. Insanity.
not the team I expected for worst special teams, but it is, I believe, if Nebraska.
Oh,
yeah,
that's interesting.
it is Nebraska.
And then
Wisconsin.
Syracuse.
Holy Wisconsin. Hello.
I mean, what
That's
else?
why
is
Minnesota's up
Wisconsin
there.
doing well? Yeah.
That's why Minnesota's higher in the rankings than I thought in the overall. The special teams are carrying. the
Hey,
squad
look.
there.
Remember when I said Notre Dame's the best team on paper?
It's a pretty good team on paper.
in the country.
But
It's,
we've
it's all
been here
special
before.
teams.
We've been here before. Notre Dame's good on paper. When we get to the playoff, little concerned.
So give me a thumbs up or down, not on what you would do, but will Notre Dame make the playoffs? And will they win a playoff game? We're setting the over-under at 0.5.
I can't do it.
What if they get
I
matched
just-
up against Boise State? Notre Dame, Boise State. That'd be a fun game.
Nope, they're getting
take
Ashton Gentied. They will get Ashton Gentied for 275 and 4. Ashton Gentie's going to do to them kind of what Lacey did to them in the national title game all those years ago. It could be one of those situations where it's just like, we're not ready. We'll be
right.
seeing you pretty early. I don't think they're going to end up playing Boise State. That would put them at the 5. I don't know if they're going to end up at the 5, but I just have the. I have a
Boise
bad-
State is not going to be the 12. Boise State is not going to be the 12. They're going to be higher. Than the
well,
12 seed.
if they're higher than the 12, then I guess there's a chance for 6-11. I think there's there's a chance. But
think
if
that
Notre
there
Dame
is
gets
a-
matched up with an SEC team, they're losing the game. They're
I
losing
think
the
there's
game.
a non-zero chance that Boise State is in the top 4, depending on how the Big 12 and the ACC shake up.
If this team would have to beat Notre Dame, I think, to be in the top 4. But there is an undefeated team that isn't in the playoff rankings, right? When they do the top 12 and the first and second team out, they've got to win the AAC. They've got to beat the rival. They got to beat Notre Dame. It's a tough ask. But Army,
Hold on.
we're watching. We're watching. Don't make sure that
but-
we tell you that we're watching you. I
Remember, we are rooting for Army, Navy in back-to-back weeks.
yes, we
remember?
are. You know that's right.
So-
yes,
So that's where we're at
Yes.
there. Would it be nice to see them make the playoffs?
Yes.
Yes. It'd be much nicer to have Army, Navy back-to-back.
it would. It really well. Army could win both. They could win both of them. We need to find a way to get Tulane out of the top 2. Tulane's got to lose a conference game, and we're gonna get what we want. I think. I don't know who they've got left on the schedule. I know this isn't on our Northern team thing. Oh, excellent! Would you look at
What
that?
They got
Tulane at
Memphis,
Navy.
Navy.
At Navy this Saturday.
Yeah, come on,
Time
Navy.
to
This is,
Navy.
your
This is
chance.
it. We have to have this. If
This
there's
is what we
one
need.
thing I want, okay, it's Army Navy back to back. That's all I'm asking for. I won't ask for anything else. I won't ask for 9-3 Illinois team, even though I want that. I want back to back Army Navy. Please.
I mean, the
Please get it
Navy
done.
play in Maryland. Like they can represent the North.
Yeah. I mean, Army's
Army
in West
plays
Point,
it.
New York.
Yeah. So either way we can.
How about this? Let's do. I'll make a sweeping declaration. Army and Navy will let you in the Northern team rankings next year if you play back-to-back games. You're both in.
Right.
Don't care the result. You're both in. We'll knock more than Purdue out.
both in?
Watch us. Yeah, I think they're both in because they both had to. Like, Navy's going to have to beat Tulane to get there. That's a pretty good win for them if they do that. Like, yeah, I'm in. Send them both in. Would love to see that. Would love.
We may have to
love see
workshop this a little bit. Because I just don't know if they're going to be good next year. I don't know if I want to slog through a whole year of talking about the
Knock
service
out.
academies.
Maryland, knock out.
Air Force plays in Colorado Springs. So
They do.
all three of them are not that Air Force is good this year, but all three of them are located in the north. Listen, thank you so much for tuning in, and please, what would really help us is if you would share this show with your friends, particularly if you have friends who have been listeners and have not followed us over to our new streaming home. If you could point them in the direction of that and help them find our feed, that'd be fantastic. So please get the word out. If you enjoy this show and you want us to keep doing it, appreciate any help you can throw our way in terms of getting the word out. Hope you guys enjoyed the new song. If you missed it, I'm not going to play it as the outro, but you can restart this episode from the beginning and catch the new song, which is absolutely, in my opinion,
It's a
well, Jake,
banger.
did you like it?
Yeah,
It's
it's
a
a
banger.
banger. Love it.
Go check it out. We started the show with it. Just set the play marker to 0-0, and the song is right there.
Yes.
And I think it's worth it. And I think that song is going to be around to stay. So I do want to thank you for tuning in. Thank you for repping the North. Jake is calling for a close game against the Bears. I'm much closer to shutout territory here. The math says it'll be a close game. I don't think this is a math game.
I never liked math. Throw it out.
Division games, and particularly Packers Bears, they're not
Yeah.
math games. They're not. I think the Packers might pitch a shutout. I think that it's at least going to be a multi-touchdown win, not just a multi-possession,
Wow.
multi-touchdown win.
Wow.
That's what I'm calling for. So
I hope
Jake,
so.
you're
Two
like
picks.
coin toss territory, aren't you?
Yeah, I think so. I think I don't know if it's coin toss. I just feel like if the Bears showing up on defense, I think is a doable thing for them. And the Packers haven't exactly been very crisp offensively. They've hit some big plays at some key moments. I just don't think they've been as crisp and consistent down to down, which I think is the concern. I think you could be looking at 20-16, where it just kind of feels like, okay, they're kind of it's like one of those. It's like a horse race that like they keep it within the length or length and a half, and you're just kind of like they're going to be there. But I do think Green Bay wins the game. I just think it's not going to be clean because I think the Bears defense showing up in a rivalry game plus, just the lack of consistency offensively, I think for Green Bay, it could just make this more interesting and can kind of maybe give the Bears a little bit of fuel to keep this one close. If it were in Green Bay this week, it'd be a lot different for me as well. Like this almost feels like, okay, this is like Utah, right? This is like Utah against BYU. We need to like conjure something out of ourselves right now to spoil something. Spoil the win streak, right? Spoil the kind of still a little bit of division champion hopes that Green Bay has. We have a chance to kind of spoil that right now. That's why I think they're going to kind of conjure something out. And that's all I got. That's it.
You're a far bigger believer in the Chicago Bears than I. And I think at this point I am completely sold on what a train wreck it is over there right now in Chicago. I think this is one of the worst Chicago Bears teams this week that we have seen in a long time. And I don't think I don't think this version of the Bears is capable of getting up for a Packers game this week. I think that they probably are already thinking that a loss is inevitable.
1, 2, 1, 2, 3 Cancun.
And I also think that it being at home is a negative for them, because if they start playing poorly, I think the Chicago fans are going to boo them, and I think it's going to suck the air out of that stadium and deflate the team. So this is why I'm calling for a multi-touchdown win for the Pack. So you are leaning toward pretty close game, not necessarily a coin flip. Who are you thinking wins the game?
I'll take Green Bay. Something like 20-16, 21-16, 20. Like it's just going to be. It is. It's just going to be one of those weird games where I think defense shows out. Maybe the offense isn't crisp, and we get that Evan Williams pick six leaping into the crowd. He has a 2-pick game. The offense does fine, but then there are still questions afterwards, right? Of kind of like, okay, is this offense just ever going to be consistent? Just has that weird feeling to it. Kind of like 2016, where it was like big Montgomery game, Bears stormed back, weird close game,
like 31-34,
kind of vibes,
wasn't it?
Yeah, so it was some 3-point margin, right? And just a very weird game. That's what I'm kind of seeing.
I'm seeing 31 to 35 points for the Pack, anywhere from 0 to 10 for Chicago.
I hope so. That would feel really.
That's
good.
what I'm seeing for this game.
That would feel
maybe really round 2 at the end of the year will be a different story, but
could be.
This is not the game, Chicago fans. This is not the game where you show up and break the streak. It ain't happening. You got at least one more heartbreak left in you.
Probably.
So that's where I'm at. We'll see. Hopefully a week from now, we're going to be laughing at what a satisfying win it was over Chicago.
Yes, would be.
Until then, in the words of the late, great Mr. Ed Policy, go Pack Go.